Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my new or updated patrons, Dave R, Dicky, and Michael S. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. First up today, just a fun fact, Apple has overtaken Tesla as one of the most shorted United States stocks. Now, this is just in terms of notional value or the number of shares shorted times the value of those shares at the time. So currently Apple with around $1 billion more in short interest. However, I've always personally preferred to look at the short interest as a percentage of the total market cap. Looking at those numbers, Apple comes in at 0.75% of the current market cap being shorted, and Tesla would be a little bit higher, actually at 1.83% of its current market cap. And going one step further, that would be around 57.3 million shares shorted right now for Tesla stock, given that there are around 3.133 billion shares outstanding after the recent split. We haven't checked in on this in a while, but this is from S3 Partners. These figures are pre-Tesla stock split, by the way. Orange is the number of shares shorted, and the green is going to be the notional value, or the number of those shares times the market price. At the end of 2021, there were around 30 million shares of Tesla stock shorted, but to factor in for the stock split, multiply that by 3, that would be 90 million shares shorted. Compare that to the number on the previous screen, it was around 57 million. That is the current shares shorted for Tesla stock. So far this year, continuing to go down. Some of you may even remember before Tesla turned profitable back in 2018, the short interest as a percentage of the free float rather than outstanding shares was as high as 26%, and I believe it did eclipse 30%. Next up, I want to share some of the highlights from Bradford's Twitter recording. The more I think about this, that this might go on for the next decade, the more I realize how big of a deal this is really going to be. Of course, Tesla's margins have a huge impact on the valuation that Wall Street puts on Tesla stock. And we knew that Tesla could achieve margins, in the neighborhood of 40% with some of the software as a service type revenue. That was without this. So I'm not saying anything's going to happen, next year. But once we get to 2024 and beyond, Tesla hitting 45, 50% margins, as crazy as it sounds, if this IRA plays out like we think that it will, I definitely think that's in the realm of possibility. Before we get into this, I think it's important to preface the conversation with the fact that there's still a level of uncertainty for how this is all going to work out, especially from an accounting standpoint, where Tesla's profits are coming from, how production tax credits will be treated potentially differently than investment tax credits. There's a whole level of nuance and complication that the general public just really isn't privy to when it comes to Tesla's accounting. And the government, by the way, is still working out some of the details of this Inflation Reduction Act. So we're just going with what we know. Bradford did mention he talked with the Rocky Mountain Institute. Now, this is a research firm in the field of sustainability, and they apparently helped to form some of this policy, so this data he's pretty confident in. Even though Tesla's 4680s are going into structural packs, the way the rule is written, they should still qualify for both of the above portions, the $35 per kilowatt hour for cells and the $10 per kilowatt hour for battery module manufacturing. We talked about this next one in a prior episode, but Tesla should get all of the tax credits from the partnership with Panasonic at Giga Nevada, and it's because of this agreement. Here it is, the Giga Nevada agreement between Tesla and Panasonic. This will be quick because we've covered it before, but credits will belong to Tesla, and Tesla will keep all of the documentation necessary to permit Tesla to receive these benefits or credits. So starting in 2023, I did just change that. Doing the math, Tesla could be receiving around $1.5 billion in these credits just from the current production that they are already doing at Giga Nevada. This advanced manufacturing tax credit is not subject to the critical minerals requirements like the regular EV tax credit. It's in a separate section of the code. Now, this is where some of the nuance and complication comes in. Most of Tesla's profits right now are coming from Giga Shanghai. Tesla has a lot of overhead in the United States with its headquarters here, research and development, Giga Austin, and it's not really producing cars yet at scale. The word is, though, with this IRA that even if Tesla doesn't have United States profits, they will still be able to receive direct payments from the United States government to actually receive these tax credits for this production credit. Now, if Tesla actually has to go that direct payment route, they would actually owe taxes on that money, so that would be not as ideal as receiving them as tax credits. And keep in mind, this really isn't even touching on the investment tax credits for solar and energy storage or 4680 production at Cato Road and eventually Giga Austin. There are just huge, wide-sweeping implications for this IRA bill. And lastly, Lathrop or Lathrop. Can somebody confirm that for me, by the way? I've heard people argue both sides. How do you actually pronounce that properly? Either way, that should qualify this new Megapack facility for that $10 per kilowatt hour module production, meaning once that facility is scaled to around 40 gigawatt hours per year, that's another potential $400 million in credits. So I wanted to spend a few minutes disseminating this information because the way I see it, this is one of the most impactful things to Tesla right now. Maybe secondary to the 4680 ramp because of the implications for Cybertruck and Semi next year, but it might be a 1A, 1B type of situation. Of course, this is always subject to change, but if this Inflation Reduction Act remains in effect until 2030 like it's written now, that could potentially mean hundreds of billions of dollars to Tesla when you start talking about terawatt hour levels of battery cell production. Real quick, I think if most of us really knew how much our online activity was being tracked and the increasing rate of scams, phishing attempts, and more bad actors trying to steal our information, I genuinely believe most of us would use a VPN like Surfshark as soon as possible. And yes, Surfshark is the sponsor of today's video, but as always, I only mention products or services that have actually impacted my life. And thank you to Matt Farrell at Undecided for turning me on to Surfshark in the first place. Surfshark is a VPN that protects your personal info anywhere you use the internet. So whether you're at home, a local coffee shop, or in an airport, Surfshark gives you peace of mind. Speaking of airports, Surfshark can also help you find better deals on flights and hotels, a feature I'm actually using this week for a friend's bachelor party next year. And if you're like me and you're sick of websites with ads all over the place, Surfshark can help here too with its clean web feature that will block these ads, trackers, and malware to prevent phishing attempts. My favorite feature though is how Surfshark can make your IP address look like it's coming from a different country. This allows you to stream video from locations around the world, bypassing geo restrictions and unlocking new content. You can use my code Electrified to get 83% off and 3 extra months free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is literally no risk to try it for yourself. The link is in the description below. Just a quick note on the Wall Street Journal article from yesterday. A lot of people out there are now thinking that Tesla's going to shut down Giga Berlin's 4680 factory and they're no longer going to make cells there. That's just not accurate. Tesla will undoubtedly still manufacture 4680s at Giga Berlin. It's just they might shift some of the future capacity or resources or whatever the case to Austin to capitalize on this Inflation Reduction Act. So to anyone out there saying that the Giga Berlin 4680 factory is just going to be shut down in an empty warehouse, please stop saying that. On that note, I believe it was Reuters who came up with this article saying that the German minister responded saying he wasn't aware of Tesla's plan changes to shift some of the attention to Giga Austin. My response would be, well, of course he isn't. Robert Habeck, Germany's economy minister, said he has no information about this new change. When asked if he knew anything about this change to Giga Berlin battery plans, he said, "No, I don't. He's really been focused on Ukraine, so I haven't really looked into that. But as you know, and maybe remember, Tesla said they didn't want to have state aid, so in a way, this is private business. I have no deeper information right now." Not only that, but this new memo from Tesla management to the team just happened a matter of 2 days ago, so it would make sense that the German economic minister doesn't yet know. Next up, in terms of the non-Tesla supercharger pilot, Iceland has been added to the list. You can pause this screen if you'd like, but here's the updated list of where this pilot is live. Just a fun fact from the government of Iceland, about 85% of the total primary energy supply in Iceland is derived from domestically produced renewable energy. In 2016, a little outdated, geothermal was around 65% of the primary energy, hydropower was 20%, and the share of fossil fuels, mainly oil, was 15%. Here we have a Tesla owner suing the company, basically claiming Tesla has advertised falsely when it comes to autopilot and FSD, a complaint we have heard many times before from different parties. Now look, I'll be the first person to tell you that over the last 6 or so years, I definitely wish Elon would have just kept his mouth shut when it comes to timelines for FSD and full self-driving and some of the other comments he's made over the years. That said, I'm pretty confident Tesla has its I's dotted and T's crossed when it comes to a legal standpoint, defending itself with the fine print. At the same time though, there were many claims made by Elon over the last 6 or so years that FSD was right around the corner, potentially leading people to expect something that never was actually delivered. I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea how this will play out, but that's that. On that note, Elon said 10.69.2.1 coming out in a few days with additional polish. 10.69.3 will come out shortly after AI Day, which is September 30th. And more excitingly, Elon then said the beta is expanding to safety scores above 80 after 10.69.2.1. So this could be a version of that wide release to North America where many new users get FSD for the first time. And as you can see, James pointing out, that could be Tesla recognizing some of that deferred revenue for these features being delivered. Here we have the Porsche IPO seemingly still on track, but they are looking to release 911 million shares in a nod to the Porsche 911. Half will be preferred shares that will actually be listed, and the other half will be common shares. Porsche is still confident about reaching a 70 to 80 billion euro valuation, which is about the same in US dollars. Giga Berlin is set to launch a train shuttle for employees sometime early next year. Yes, Tesla plans to pay for this on its own. Maybe somewhat of an update for employment at Giga Berlin, but its unofficial sources in the neighborhood of 6,000 employees. But this train will run from Erkener to Giga Berlin and back, making the trip 40 times a day. Looks like we're going to have another situation of Tesla submitting documents for the modernization and expansion of the route and the installation of a new station that will undoubtedly need to be reviewed and probably voted on and then approved, all of that. But theoretically, this train could start running in March to April 2023. You may recall that partnership between Hertz and Uber, where Hertz is going to allow Uber drivers to rent some of these EVs from Hertz. Well, this program is now expanding into Canada, specifically Vancouver in British Columbia. And here's a list of new cities for the latest rollout of this program in the States. Those cities will be added to this list of the current cities where this program is available, and this gives riders the option to get into a Tesla, Polestar, or a Mach-E. Next up, we have Starlink offering a new high-performance dish that will cost $2,500. This compared to the regular dish still sitting at $599. However, now with this new high-performance dish, it'll have the same monthly rate at $110 per month. This new package will be for regular residential customers, not just businesses or enterprises, and it's supposed to perform better in hot, cold, and rainy conditions, but there are no guarantees for performance improvements. The high-performance dish can see 35% more sky, allowing it to connect to more satellites and better serve users with atypical installations. Zooming in so you can see the main benefits: improved weather resistance, better performance in the snow, and of course, better visibility of the satellites. And it does say download speeds are typically 3 times better at over 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And for performance in the cold, 1.7 times better snow melt capability in terms of inches per hour. On this one, you guys know I don't do politics, but to still not give credit to Tesla at all for leading this charge and really making this happen, it's just very sad to see. Here we have Joe Justice, who used to work at Tesla and was a big part of the agile manufacturing. He's done many great interviews on YouTube. I'd encourage you to watch them. He's now joining Cyberlandr, the company making the attachment to make Cybertruck more livable. And here's a tweet from Martin to set the stage for this outro video. Hope you all have an awesome day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.
But fast forward 2 years, the world has changed dramatically. Not only has their capitalization changed, right? Bankruptcy is totally off the table. But 2 things have dramatically changed. Number 1, the world is moving now wholesale, both for geopolitical realities and for energy realities in the direction of electrification. We're only 8% penetration globally of electric cars. that 8% penetration is going to expand probably at a CAGR of 30 to 40% over the next 5 to 10 years. Global governments are now all behind this, doing the things necessary, whether it's charging stations, whether it's new investments in battery technologies, battery mining. The Inflation Reduction Act, while horrifically named as a piece of legislation, is a really potent piece of legislation to spur further development in energy storage and electrification. And when you look at Tesla, they have 30% margins. Their competitors are running 10% at best. And I think they have a compounding advantage in the world. So while we expect their share will stay at around 15% as we move forward, that's 15% in a massively growing market. And we think they're going to be a much larger percentage of the profit pool in electric vehicles, in energy storage, et cetera. And so much like Apple represents a huge portion of the profit pool and a smaller share of actual units sold, we think Tesla is following that playbook. And, you know, they built a company that frankly is extending its moat and extending its lead versus the OEMs who are saddled with a bunch of ICE legacy.